All right, good evening everyone. Welcome to this Mayoral Forum. I am Dr. Robert Cheever. I'm joined by Dr. Lindora Thompson. I want to thank the candidates for being here. Just as a brief reminder of tonight's rules, you'll each have a 1-minute opening statement, at which point we'll then move into the questions. For the questions themselves, you'll each have 2 minutes to respond. We will be rotating who answers first throughout the evening. And then across the evening, you each have 3 1-minute rebuttals. If you'd like to give a rebuttal, just say, I'd like to give a rebuttal, and we will tally it on our sheet. And it's like football. Once you've used your 3 for the half, you're done. So that's what's going on with those. And then we are just going to take it away with the, yeah. Do you want to get them started?
Thank you. We'll start with Freddie de la Cruz. To begin with, each one will have an opening statement up to 1 minute. To begin with, we'll start with a 1-minute opening statement. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Freddie de la Cruz. As you know, the polls are open today. And sitting for you here is the status quo. And I'm asking that we vote Freddie for mayor because we need a change in Fayetteville. I've been in Fayetteville since 1975. I went to school here. I raised children here. My grandchildren live here. I've served 32 years in the United States Army. I'm a retired Army Lieutenant Colonel. I married a local. We have 6 children, 15 grandkids, and I understand the struggles that families have, with day-to-day expenses. And after retiring from the military, there was a void that left that I felt like I needed to fulfill. After serving soldiers and civilians for 32 years in the Army, and coming out from an institution that had a lot of demands on my life, it was just an empty spirit inside of me.
Thank you, Mr. de la Cruz.
And I want to serve the people of Fayetteville.
Thank you. Mr. Benevente.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mario Benevente, and I've been serving as a city councilman in District 3 for the past 4 years. And after 2 terms and talking about it with my community members, I'm running for mayor this summer. I wanted to make sure that I'm continuing the great work that we've been able to accomplish for the communities that I've served up until now. And I want to make sure that as the one council person who can see whether or not the policies in City Hall are truly translating inside the courtroom. I practice here in Cumberland County as an attorney at law, mostly in our juvenile courts. And lo and behold, the one category of crime that is going in the wrong direction in particular is juvenile crime. And I see what other cities have done successfully in order to bring that down. In some cities, as much as 70% over the course of 5 years. And that happens when you hyper-focus on those most at risk, and you surround them with the resources and the support that them and their families need. Up until now, our city has failed to do that, and after 12 years, it's time for a change. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mitch Colvin. I'm blessed to serve as your mayor. Tonight I'm hoping that we can talk meaningful ideas about how we continue to move our community forward. Oftentimes we'll hear great talking points, we will hear sound bites, but I believe you came out here this evening to hear about plans to continue to move us forward. I plan to talk about what our plans are. Many of the things that you've heard tonight, and particularly from the previous debate, are already being done in our community. And since under my leadership, with the help of this community, more people are working, more people have homes, more businesses have opportunities, more community programs are funded, more people have grants, and our youth actually have plans. And there's more collaboration between your government, the stakeholders of your government. So I plan to talk about specifics tonight. Everyone can tell us the root cause is this or that, but we need to come with solutions, and that's what I plan to do tonight. So thank you for having me.
Waddell.
Good evening, I'm Tisha Waddell. Thank you for coming out. You being here says a lot because this is a very important time in our community. Mr. McMillan, please stand up for a moment. If you were in this room, you heard Mr. McMillan recently say this is a season where things are probably going to get worse before they get better. Thank you. I wanted everyone to see who you were. I assure you things are going to get worse before they get better. And not because we're incapable, but because that is what happens in societies. When you start to see things progressively declining, history dictates that they get worse and worse and worse until there's a fracture point. And then there's just a catalyst for a certain type of change. So we need leadership who's prepared to guide through the worst and not talk about everything through rose-colored glasses. We have to be practical, we have to be fiscally responsible, and we have to be collaborative. And I am prepared to be all three of those things. And I hope to earn your support this evening as we move forward.
Mr. Johnson.
Good evening. My name is Clifton Johnson, and first of all, I'd like to start out by saying thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and speak with you all this evening. And I hope to earn your support and also earn your vote. I'm running for mayor of Fayetteville because I didn't come here tonight to say there's problems or to point fingers. I came here tonight so that y'all can understand that I'm in the race to come to bring together. That is what our city needs. We need a leader who understands team. Everybody in here, regardless of where you live, regardless of where you work, we all love Fayetteville. And that's what I am bringing to this race. I was born in Cape Fear Valley. I graduated from 71st. I'm a Falcon, fly Falcons fly, and I love my Falcons. And when I go back to that school and I see that I came from that school over 20 years ago and it's still the same, I ask those questions why. But instead of complaining, I'm gonna come, I'm gonna make us a team, and I'm gonna take this city, and this whole city is gonna become a family. Thank you.
And Ms. Jensen, a 1-minute opening statement.
Thank you very much, and I apologize for being late. I had another engagement, and I tried to get out there as fast as I could, but it didn't work like it was supposed to. So, good evening to everyone. For those that do not know me, my name is Kathy Keith Johnson. I have represented District 1 for 12 years, and I'm now serving as the Mayor Pro Tem. In my minute, just to give you a little bit about me, I do a lot of collaboration, and when I see things and I see a vision, I see it through our youth. And I showed that when I first got on council, when I started the Fayetteville Cumberland Youth Council over 10 years ago. So when I make my vote, I'm making it for the future. I'm not making it for me. I'm making it for our children, our young adults, 40 and under. So again, thank you.
Thank you. And just so you're aware, the questions are 2 minutes each for the answers. And the first question will be to you, Ms. Jensen, but everyone will answer it. This first question is about housing. The cost of living in Fayetteville has gone up, especially the cost of housing, with home prices and apartment rentals climbing by 70% in the last decade. What's your view of how the city should make sure people can still find affordable, safe, good quality housing? And again, Ms. Jensen, we're starting with you.
So thank you. So affordable housing and attainable housing and workforce housing, we can call them all three things, are a problem in every town USA. But it has hit Fayetteville pretty hard in the past 5 years. So what my philosophy to all of this is, when you have a problem, you look what your policies are. So we went to the UDO, and what we found out is we have policy to integrate and to put attainable housing and market rate housing, instead of just putting affordable housing in one place. So what I would say is, our UDO has held us back for about 12 years. You look at Cary, you look at Raleigh, you look at Winston-Salem, you see 5-story buildings, 6-story buildings that are apartments. Well, what they've done is, when the builder comes in and the developer comes in, they say, you know what, we're gonna help you, but you're gonna have to make 20% of that attainable housing, workforce housing. And then when we talk about workforce and attainable housing, we are talking about young adults that are starting their career. We're talking about teachers, we're talking about bus drivers, we're talking about police officers. So with that being said, the council also has started a program that we started 6 years ago that has finally gotten off the beaten path, where we give any government worker $30,000 on a down payment for a house, but you have to stay in the city of Fayetteville for 5 years. So there's lots of things that we can do. We just have to dig down deep, look at our policy, and change our policy. And kind of look what our sister cities are doing, and we have changed quite a bit in the past 6 months to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Benavente.
So with this very unique audience that I have, I want to make sure that I'm talking about new ideas. A lot of the people that have been on council before that are running for mayor, they're going to tell you about what we're currently doing, and the truth is that we've all supported those things. What I want to talk to you about is this concept of a community home trust. So there are neighborhoods here in this community. I'm going to name Seabrook Broadale, a community watch that I just left a few moments ago. That's why I rushed here, and I can't keep my sweater on because it's that hot. Is this concept that a lot of folks who have homes that they own, their children, their grandchildren, they may not be interested necessarily in sticking around. You get the corporate landlords coming, trying to buy out the block. You get the reverse mortgage, and a lot of folks trying to get their house sold out from underneath them for pennies on the dollar. And when folks don't have another option, they sometimes fall prey to these predatory tactics. So what if the community came together and decided we are going to buy our block back? And we're going to ensure that this is not a for-profit enterprise, but this is instead about ensuring affordable housing, that we maintain the character of this community. You know, I talk about Seabrook Broadale because it's right across the street from Fayetteville State University, and so many teachers, professors, students, faculty, they would all just live right across the street from the university. If we wanted to maintain the character of a community, you allow that community to sort of manage themselves. The city can, and other communities have assisted with those purchases, those down payments, so that this community watch, or perhaps a nonprofit that comes out of the neighborhood, can manage these properties, again, in a way that doesn't necessarily try and make a profit for everybody, but just to maintain and grow what they have. I'll also share that here in the city, we tried to do this Home Buyer Heroes program. And it was meant specifically to assist folks that were targeted, right? We wanted to make sure our firefighters, our teachers, and certain folks could take access to it. You can imagine kind of like a scholarship for a minority community. You want to make sure you're targeting the right person. But here in our city, you'll hear from other folks that have decided to take away that particular focus on who needed it most and open it up to everyone.
Thank you.
So that's one way to get rid of scholarship money, is to give it out to everyone.
Thank you, Mr.
We want
Benavente.
to focus on who needs it
Mr.
the most.
Benavente, your time has expired. Move to Mr. Colvin.
Mr. Colvin?
All right, thank you for that. How many of you remember when COVID struck, it was hard to get toilet tissue? You remember that? I remember that. Couldn't find it. And what is he talking about? Because toilet tissue became hard to get, the prices were up, right? I remember overpaying 4 or 5 times. Our housing issue is because we have a shortage. We have rent that is elevated and escalated because there's a shortage. So the first thing we have to do is put more options on the market. More homes by more homeowners. The program that was mentioned earlier, the Home Buyers Program, expanded to this community where 60% of the people work for one governmental institution or another. Making them a home owner, not a renter, is a good step forward. The incentives that we provide for builders to go into rehab neighborhoods and build new to prevent rent, to option rent options, and multifamily incentives for some of our commercial developers to now put housing where you do shopping centers on our corridors. You see it in North Hills, you see it in other places that there's living and retail together. We have to do those kind of things, which will bring our inventory up, it'll bring rents down, and we'll take renters and turn them into owners which are invested in this community. We are building those things out, but to expand it and accelerate it, we have to move that number. I had a 200 home buyer goal for the end of this 2 years, and we have met about half of that with a stable real estate market and working with our realtors. And I think we have to continue to accelerate that, and we have to continue to do things that make people buy into neighborhoods. The renter-owner program that the city can incentivize people who pay rent, that the landlords and those heirs and those remote landowners or property owners will then have an incentive that the city helps them purchase or do rental to own. So those are some of the new innovative ideas that we want to bring in our community.
Thank you, Mr. Colvin.
Ms. Waddell?
Would you please repeat the question?
Sure.
The cost of living has gone up in Fayetteville, especially the cost of housing, with home prices and apartment rentals up 70% in the past decade. What's your view of how the city should make sure people can still find affordable, safe, good quality housing?
Thank you. So, as a visionary, I want to thank the people to my left who were speaking about the Home Buyers Program, because I actually started that program. I began that program 6 years ago, like Ms. Jensen said, with the help of a member of our community who brought me to the table and said there's some money at a bank and they want to know what type of program the city can put forward to utilize this investment. We came up with this idea, pitched it, got support, and it moved forward. I'm very grateful to see that it is expanding. Mr. Benavente is correct. It is not actually being applied within the way that I anticipated, because I didn't only anticipate for it to be a homeowners program, but I anticipated for it to incentivize teachers and first responders to live in the communities that they worked in, so that we can begin to redevelop that sense of community and that sense of pride of living where you work. As for, and I want to even piggyback on the toilet paper conversation, and don't anybody out there get mad at me when I say this, but if you ran out of toilet paper when COVID happened, that meant that you weren't forward thinking, because we all know we're going to have to wipe our behinds. And when we know that, we prepare for that. And so one of the ways that I make sure that I prepare for that, and again, this goes to being a visionary and being prepared as a leader, I shop at Sam's. And so we have several cases of toilet paper in our garage. So when COVID happened, not only were we prepared, but we were prepared to take care of our neighbors and our friends who needed toilet paper as well. The city recently increased the taxes on homes. That is going to increase the rate of what people are paying for their rent. So in order to make sure that we can have attainable housing, we've got to think about all of these things that we're doing at the table, and we've got to be very strategic in how we make policy, and we need to open up our zoning so that people can build different types of housing that different types of buyers and renters can afford. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. When it comes to affordable housing, we all know that after COVID, living conditions, cost of living, gas, groceries, everything almost quadrupled. It's not just in Fayetteville, it is across the nation. Like I said, I retired military and I've been all over the world and in multiple cities. And it's not just Fayetteville that is experiencing a cost of living. Actually, Fayetteville is 27% below what the actual nation's cost of living is. However, what needs to happen is we do need to change some of our policy. Fayetteville's taxes did rise, as you heard, and that causes property to go up. We need to look at those particular situations and say, okay, well, what was our reason for raising the taxes? We also need to do research and understand, okay, can we change the UDO, bring different types of houses here, bring different businesses here, because if we don't bring the jobs, people are not going to be able to afford the housing. Because I'm actually in real estate, and I keep houses that are over in Spring Lake. I don't raise my rent because I understand that people are not able to afford. But I do understand that the rent rates have went up, and they're going to go up again next year. So I try to keep my houses down at a low rate. That way people can have that affordable housing, but we still need to get a plan in the future because rates are going to go up, and rent's going to go up, and houses are going to continue to go up. So we need to make those policies to keep those rates down. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. De La Cruz.
Housing definitely is an issue in Fayetteville. Two areas I would say, you've got regular housing for people who have jobs or are looking for houses to live in. And then you've got your low-income homes, okay? And we have a shortage of, affordable housing for like Section 8. So one of the things I would do is I would focus working with the state legislators and the congressmen and the senators to see how we can get HUD money, grants to help with our housing issues that we have in Fayetteville. I've served in the military for 32 years. I understand how the federal government works. I do have a lot of connections, and at the White House and the Pentagon, a lot of locations that I can lobby for Fayetteville to get things done, bring money here for the housing problems that we have. Now, so far I haven't heard one person at this table talk about what they have actually done. What projects have they actually done to help us solve this problem for 12 years? I understand UDO is an issue, and it's been an issue for 12 years. So that's another thing I would look at addressing is how can we make that UDO more friendly to developers who want to come in and build. Okay, that's very important. Also, I think we need to increase, our inspections and permitting office to make it more user-friendly for people who want to build homes and do construction work in Fayetteville. It's easy for them to do. Because right now, what I'm hearing from the contractors and developers is nobody wants to come to Fayetteville to build anything because it's very cumbersome to get anything done. It's a process. It's a long process. And I've experienced it myself. I'm a local business owner, and it's like, and I'm running for mayor, you think, I'd get at least a little help, right? It's a very cumbersome process. And there's a lot of people who are feeling this. And I want to take some of the money that we're not spending for the police force, because we got about 100 police short, but we still have a budget to pay them, is to hire more inspectors and more permitting people, to be more train them to be user-friendly with people.
Thank you, Mr. De La Cruz. Mr. Colvin, you had a rebuttal?
Yes, and I think it's important as we go through this process to clarify statements that are not true or not. The city had a home buyers down payment assistance program. It was underutilized. First Horizon Bank, the president of this branch had reached out and they wanted to contribute $50,000 to it. And one of the folks that were facilitating that on the banking committee for the state, as they were going through their merger with First Tennessee, reached out and contributed that by way of Ms. Waddell. So it wasn't an invention of hers. You can look it up. It's been existing. It was defunct and underutilized until we expanded it. Second thing is, it's the difference between buying toilet paper for me and my family and buying it for my business, where they're clients. And so it's not about preparation, it's a reality of business owners. But the point is saying, the higher the demand, the lower the supply, the higher the price. And that was the point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Colvin. Ms. Waddell, you have a rebuttal. Go ahead.
Thank you. If you've got AirDrop on your iPhone, I'd be happy to AirDrop you the document for the creation of the program that I was talking about. If you'll turn that on, I'd be happy to send it to you. Or as a matter of fact, if you'll go ahead and turn it on now, I'll go ahead and send it to you. And if you have a problem, if you don't have AirDrop, email me at tishafayforward@gmail.com and I'll be happy to send you an email of the document. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question is about belonging and safety. Tell us more about your vision for Fayetteville when it comes to questions of belonging and safety. Who do you think about when you think about these questions? We'll begin with Mario Benavente.
The Fayetteville Observer did an article not too long ago where the headline was, "Driving While Black Still an Issue in Fayetteville." Back in 2015, the city of Fayetteville reached out to the United States Department of Justice because statistically we were stopping black drivers at twice the rate of anyone else. There was no justification for this because black, white, Asian, Latino, Native American, the hit rate, the rate at which people are found with contraband was virtually the same no matter the demographic. So why was one group being singled out more than anyone else? The ultimate problem with all this is that citizens of Fayetteville do not feel welcome in their own communities. When on the way to church, I hear from Mr. Bernard Pearson, who's calling me and saying, "Why am I getting stopped for the 4th time this month with my family? Is it because I have a nice car? Is it because I have long locks?" These are the kinds of issues that people are continuing to talk about. The city of Fayetteville is in the criminal procedure class at North Carolina Central University School of Law. We study the fact that here in the city, after 12 years, after being told what to do differently, the disparity between stops and searches are actually worse than they were back in 2015. So the city has constantly looked the other way when it comes to policies and programs that will actually make the city safer, that will make it more welcoming to every single citizen in this community. And until we have a mayor who's willing to stand firm on issues of restorative justice, we're going to continue to have problems where we keep people in cycles of poverty and the revolving door at the courthouse. I often hear my opponent to my right talking about it's ultimately an economic issue, that they should, in my opinion, it sounds like someone telling you to pick yourself up by your bootstraps. When it doesn't, justice should not be only available to those who have the monetary means. Justice goes beyond your economic status, and you should have access to having equal rights here in the city of Fayetteville, regardless of your
Thank you, Mr.
socioeconomic
Benavente.
class.
Mr. Coleman.
Thank you for that. We heard it on the last panel, we hear it all the time. There's a systemic problem, and then there are the symptoms of problems. It's a symptom of the problem that was described by my opponent to the left. The systemic piece, it is a matter of resources. When someone has to pay to renew their tags or pay their rent, oftentimes they choose their rent and take the chance with their tags. When they have a lapse in insurance, do they pay their rent or buy groceries, or do you pay your insurance premium? Economics is a huge piece, and we have to fix that part, and we have to be real about it, where the net worth of African Americans is a fifth of what it is of whites and others and Asians. We have to be real about it. But when it's time to vote for jobs in this community, opponent to my left voted against it. When it's time to vote for the home ownership program, which is the easiest pathway to wealth, he voted against it. When there's a TEFRA hearing here for an education, for a school, to put a school in downtown, he voted against it. Economics, homes, jobs, very important pillars in poverty reduction. So we can't just point to the problem if we're not going to have a solution. So what I think we do is we continue to bring opportunity. There's about 25,000 people in our community that's underemployed, meaning that they do not have the skill set that they need. We're working on building a pipeline for that with our community college. We're working on expunging records that are a barrier for people to be employed. We're working on strengthening the relationship with people who have been incarcerated or just haven't had an opportunity to get it together so that we can teach them a trade. Teach them how to be a plumber and an HVAC or an electrician. Those are the kind of things we have to do. And yeah, you may hear Amazon come up tonight and they paid $20 an hour, but they hired 1,200 people. That fits a certain skill set in our community. We've got to bring that number of the underemployed down so that we can bring the symptoms of poverty down.
Take my rebuttal now.
Yes, Mr. Benavente, you can take a rebuttal now.
So apologies to the Republicans in the room, because you can make an alternative example with this. But when Republicans at the legislature will blame the Democrats for voting against teacher pay raises, and you voted against Medicare expansion, everyone in this room is wise enough to realize that the Democrats didn't vote against those things. They wanted higher raises. They wanted more expansion. And again, there's an example in the alternative as well. So please, everyone in this room, think really hard about it. Would I really vote against the Office of Community Safety when I was the one who spearheaded that idea? When you hear the person to my right try and assume that you guys do not know any better, that's what he's been doing for the past 12 years. When he talks about the kinds of economic processes that we can do to support people, those are all wonderful things. Let's continue to do them. That doesn't mean we get to violate people's constitutional rights in the meantime. So we've got to have someone who's justice-minded, not someone who is, basically living their life as if everything is a game of Monopoly.
And that's time, Mr. Benavente. Ms. Mayoral, 2 minutes.
Would you please repeat the question? Thank you.
Yes. This next question is about belonging and safety. Tell us more about your vision for Fayetteville when it comes to questions of belonging and safety. Who do you think about when you think about these questions?
Think about everybody when I think about belonging and safety. And when you ask me for my ideas, are you asking specifically for my approach to public safety?
Yes, public safety.
Okay, so I said, and many of you have probably already seen this, but I did sort of try and explain how the city council works when it comes to public safety. So we are a governing body that is a city council manager form of government, and we are responsible for creating policy. And we need to have policy at City Hall that is inclusive, that does help people feel like they belong. And it should include everybody. And let me say this, I'm a believer, and believers have a certain prescription that we ascribe to. But it does not mean that we think that other people ought to be mistreated or left out of the process of being fairly governed. And so I think that our policies should be fair for all of our people. And I think when we talk about public safety, we definitely have to look to our chief of police, because that is his lane of expertise in terms of how to secure the community. Now, when we talk about preventing these young people from becoming criminals and reducing recidivism, that is community partnership. You guys, let me say this, I did a research paper recently, I'm in school again. I did a research paper and I chose as my thesis, violent crimes in young citizens between the ages of 14 and 17. And when I was doing my research, I've been finding that we've been having the same conversation since the early 90s, and that we've presented many of the same solutions since the early 90s. So you guys ask us questions, and I wish that I had the one-size-fits-all solution to tell you how to secure our community and make it where you could sleep with your doors unlocked again. Unfortunately, I do not. This is a community issue, and we are all going to have to put our heads together to find a way to save our kids, bring our people out of these prison systems, and truly help them to be reintroduced back into society and create a culture where we all want to live collaboratively together.
Thank you, Mrs. Johnson.
Thank you. So in regards to public safety, where I'm coming from in regards to public safety is first we got to start with changing the narrative. Changing the narrative, changing the narrative, changing the narrative. We used to say Vietnam. When I would hear Vietnam, I would explain to people where the actual history of that term came from. Our youth thought that Vietnam means that we were in the streets banging and doing this. But no, that's not what Vietnam. And I'm pretty sure Freddie, with his experience in the military, he would tell you where the Vietnam comes from. It's actually from Vietnam. And then, of course, with our mayor now, he changed it to the Can-Do City. So thank you, Mayor, for changing it. Because you start with narrative. It's a mindset. Why are we dealing with all this crime? Everybody see this? See the cell phone? People want to get clicks. Want to get the clicks, want to get the clicks. I graduated from 71st. You see Sean is sitting over there. I was explaining to him what happened to me when I was young. My best friend was actually, he lost his life right in the neighborhood that Sean was speaking of. Now I'm back 25 years later, went out and graduated. And we need to come and people need to give that testimony of, you know what, Clifton, how did you do it? How did you go from living in an area of a lot of crime, and how you get to where you're at now? It's a mindset. So we start with the mindset. Not everybody in Fayetteville has always talked about it as this violent city. Have you been to Durham? It's this violent city. Have you been to Raleigh? It's this violent city. Have you been to Atlanta? You would run back to Fayetteville. I've been to a lot of cities. So I know that everybody's up here and they're jumping on the mayor, but y'all do understand that we don't have a strong mayor system. And so you gotta understand your government. We've been out here at these polls. You know how many people voted? I'm waiting to get an email. We was at what, like 1,026 the other day? It's 210,000 people in Fayetteville. Would you ask the mayor when he won his election how many people voted for him? I'll let him tell you that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Dela Cruz.
Yes, public safety is very important to me. I have my grandchildren. My children live in Fayetteville. And some of the things that I would do to help with public safety is, number one, I would work with our new chief of police. Okay, I spent 32 years in the Army, and of the 32, I spent 28 years as a military police officer. I'm trained in physical security, safety, force protection, operational protection. When it comes to safety, security, I'm probably the most knowledgeable person on this table right here, right now. I would focus on doing things that are going to mitigate the threats that we have against our citizens. Some of the things I've always talked about is, some of the vehicles that we got parked at the motor pool right across the street from the Botanical Gardens, a whole bunch of police cars are just sitting there. I would leverage those police cars throughout the city. Strategically place them in neighborhoods, advertise that we're doing walking patrols in neighborhoods. So when you park a car in a neighborhood, if someone's going to do some kind of criminal activity, they'll see the vehicle, but they won't know where the cops are because they could be walking around. So I would strategically place all those vehicles around the city. The other thing I would do, and the city's already doing, is increase the pay for our police officers, but I would want to make sure that we retain our police officers, quality police officers. So by doing that, we need to help with our recruitment. And I think we could increase our motorcycle division and announce that we're hiring more motorcycle patrols for the police department, where people who are interested in riding a motorcycle and enforcing law and maybe get other police officers that are already doing that come to Fayetteville to increase our police force. I would leverage non-evasive technologies, because everybody wants to keep their privacy. So I'd want to leverage technology, but non-invasive technologies. There's a lot of things that we can do, to mitigate crime, to make our community more safe. And I'm the person I think that can do it.
Thank you.
With the chief.
Ms. Jensen.
Thank you. So I'm going to go a different route on this. Before I get started on crime, and I'll circle back, we're talking about taxes. We're talking about how taxes went up. I want you to know the city started out in their budget $12 million in the deficit because the sales tax changed. We took our police officers' pay and we made it a step program, and we did a we compressed their pay. So our officers are getting paid to what most people are getting paid. So we are keeping our officers. That is the first thing, because we were 120 short, now we're 65 short. Technology has to be put in. But what I will say, I'm a mom of 4 boys, and where our statistics is young men, 35 and under. Children need opportunity to have hope, and in the past 10, 15 years, they have lost that. They come out of school, they have to pay for their health care, they have to pay for housing that is ridiculous, and they have to pay student loans if they go to school. By the time they get out of school, even if they have a 4-year degree, they have to start out at $45,000 to even break even, and that's just paying school loans, house, and health care. So we have failed them in government, all the way up from the top to the bottom. So there has to be ways that we can give our children opportunity. At 26, you're out. If you're on your parents' insurance, you're out. You have a bill for $500. I don't know who's 26 years old and is making $70,000, $80,000 a year, even with a 4-year degree. So when I talk about that, we have to have FTCC. We have to give our children a skill. Even if they've gone in college, you always have to have a backup.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This next question is about accountability. Recently, we've had reports about city contractors leaving projects half finished and then skipping town. What steps will the city take to make sure that contractors who receive public funds complete the jobs they're hired to do? And Mr. Colvin, we're starting with you.
Good. I mean, listen, we, for the first time in this community, did a plethora of capital projects, meaning things that we actually built because the taxpayers passed the bond. It started with $35 million with Parks and Rec. We put almost 15 projects on the ground. You turn around and you had the infrastructure and the housing and the public safety bonds, fire stations, and other investments. There were one incident where a contractor, one particular contractor, was awarded a contract that he didn't complete. And the city changed its project management. The city council went to the city manager because he is the person responsible for day-to-day after we do the budgeting, after we do the policy, which is the will to do it. And we required that all future capital projects have a project manager on there. And so those projects are being picked up. So the answer to the precise question is, we've changed the process and the procedure. We also made it very clear with accountability that this is a deliverable, and that if there are projects that go over budget and that are not completed, then the accountability will start with one of the 2 people that work for the city council and the mayor, which is the city manager. And so we've made it very clear. Those projects now are back on rail. One has been completed. The Maple C. Smith is being utilized. The tennis center project was another. The sidewalks on Rose Hill are near or at completion after DOT added their portion with the roundabouts. So I think you learn from mistakes, but the thing about it is transparency shows that you knew it, we owned it, and we fixed it. And again, if there are things that we can learn from in the future, then we're going to make sure that those things are mitigated and they don't happen again. And so those projects are online, but we changed the processes to answer to your question.
Ms. Waddell?
And I don't even need to repeat it this time. I actually agree with what Mr. Colvin said, so I'm not going to reiterate what he said. I think you just hold your city manager and your city attorney liable for when they drop the ball. And I mean, clearly they dropped the ball in this instance because you have a company who was permitted to bond themselves and they didn't catch it. And they should have, because there's a North Carolina general statute that indicates that you are supposed to be checking these bonds before you approve this work. So I agree with that. I do want to go back to something that Ms. Jensen said, and I want to dispel this myth for any young people that might be watching, that you have to go to college to get a good job. Because there are a lot of pathways to gainful employment, and a lot of the people, and now also young people who are watching this, I'm not telling you don't go to college, because there are careers that require a college degree. Ms. Jensen asked how many 26-year-old children can come out of school and afford to pay $500 a month for health insurance and afford these rents. Without putting all my daughter's business in the streets, my daughter is 19 years old. She is tracking right now to make $90,000 this year. She's in school at FTCC. She lives on her own and pays almost $2,000 a month in rent. She's doing better than her mama is financially because we taught her how to be resourceful, and we gave her a good attitude and a positive outlook on life that she can take into anybody's job and be a hireable, gainful asset to their business. She's in sales. You all know we're a consumer nation. If you learn the skill of sales, you can translate that into dollars anywhere you go. So it's a myth that you cannot make money. Now here's the other thing. We have a lot of people who work in this community that don't live here. They come in, they work, and then they take their money and they go out to Hope County, Harnett County, out to Spring Lake, and they have homes there, and that's where the benefit of their tax dollars
Thank you,
are.
Ms. Waddell.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. All right, so I'm gonna kind of lighten the room a little bit. In regards to how you answer the question, how you fix everything as far as the projects, you hire 7-Eleven. So 7-Eleven's project manager, they know how to get things done. They come in and you argue and 7-Eleven look at you and 7-Eleven says, nice to be you, this 7-Eleven's going up. You want to protest, 7-Eleven's going up. So you hire 7-Eleven's project manager. So, and I know I was joking, I just wanted to kind of get y'all to kind of smile a little bit, put a smile on your face, but yes, actually it all goes to project management. You got to do strategic leadership. So if you're going to set a project and we're going to hire someone and then we pay them to build it, it's no different than when I hire a contractor to build one of my properties. We're going to sit down, we have a strategic plan, we have milestones, we have a goal, we have a Q&A, which means that we sit back and we go and we check. We do checks and balances. So when you hire that person, you do those milestones, you do hot washes, and if they're not on track, you have to hold them accountable. And that's why I said 7-Eleven, because we've been arguing to keep 7-Eleven out of the community. And the more we argue, the more 7-Elevens they build. So what I say is all about project management. Who is that project manager? Who are you hiring? And in the mindset, where do you want to see the city go? Do you want to see these projects get put up? And then you get that behind that and you get the projects done. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. De La Cruz.
Yes, one of the first things I would do when it comes to accountability is I would request that the state auditor come in and do an audit of the money that's been spent in Fayetteville. And I understand that there's audits done, there's the contracted audits and internal audits. I'm talking about a state audit. It's similar to the one they did in Spring Lake. When you have projects and you are paying a contractor to do the work, and they skip town with millions of dollars, you know, that begs the question is, who's getting paid? I mean, that's everybody, every time this conversation comes up, the question is, who's getting paid? And that's what I would like to know, who is getting paid? The fire station, I understand it had issues with the permitting and process, and the way that whole thing went about, that fortunately was bonded, so I don't think the city's going to be losing that much money on that one. But when it comes to the tennis courts and the sidewalks, that's a complete failure. I mean, my experience, okay, I spent 3 years in Saudi Arabia as a senior security advisor, okay, and I was also a contracting officer representative where I was responsible for writing the scope of work for multi-million-dollar contracts for training, for equipment acquisition, so I understand that process, okay? You've got to have somebody every month, every week, and we have a whole division. That's why I keep saying we need to hire more permitting and inspectors to see these jobs are being done in accordance with the schedule. And these contractors, they need to be either rewarded for completing the project on time or penalized for doing them late. My suggestion, bottom line, is we need to hire local contractors that are in Fayetteville to do these jobs. We may spend a little bit more money, but we're sure to get the job done.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson?
Thank you. I am going to agree with what the mayor said. I'm not going to just repeat it. And I'm going to agree what Ms. Waddell said, especially about not everybody needs a college degree and that we have FTCC here. So we have hired a construction manager at risk. We saw the problems. We have built over $60 million worth of Parks and Rec projects. 10 years ago, you had one senior center that was very old. Now you have 2 brand new senior centers with pools. You have the one at Tokay where you can go work out. You have a skateboard park for our children. We have put millions into our Parks and Rec and our recreational buildings. And I'm going to say this. I don't know how many people have done a renovation project in their house. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have. If you have it done on time and on budget, you are probably 1% of the people that are sitting here. That is a fact, and you have to realize that government is the same. We are employing the same people that you are employing. And this is my last thing that I would say to the council when they would come and everybody would talk about this. You do nothing, you have no problems. Think about that. If you do nothing, nobody can get upset with you. But if you do something, you're going to have problems. And that's why you elect people that can take care of those problems and fix them. If you're a business owner, it doesn't matter how good your business is, it is how you fix the problem. So what I will say, and I will say about my colleagues on council, we have fixed the problem. You have sidewalks now, you're going to have them in the center.
Thank you.
So those folks that are currently on city council, myself, Mayor Pro Tem Jensen, Mayor Colvin, we're glad to mention that 3 of these projects have gone really well, right? The Tennis Center will open in about a couple months. The sidewalks on Rosefield Road are almost done. Maple C. Smith is complete. What was conveniently left out, of course, is Fire Station number 4. And then, of course, that building that never got built to the left of Secker Stadium. There's a giant parking deck with reinforced concrete that was supposed to have a hotel and a business park on top. And in both of those cases, we are in litigation because of those folks who unfortunately did not do their job up to standard or just completely failed to complete their job in total. My commitment to you as your next mayor is I'll make sure that folks are held accountable for all of these things. My biggest concern right now, being behind closed doors with the folks, to my left and to my right, is that I believe, unfortunately, you read in the news just the other day that we allowed this case to get dismissed against PCH. That this long-standing issue, we may never get the answers about exactly what went wrong, because honestly, I think that there's unfortunately a lot of political influence involved. When we talk about Muhammad and the 3 failed projects, I have to ask, what sort of political influence did he have to get so many projects here in our city when he didn't even have his own bonding company set up straight? And then I look through the campaign finance records of the person to my right, and I see that a financial contribution was made to his campaign by Mr. Muhammad. And those are the things that we have to be mindful of, that we have to make sure that citizens of Fayetteville can trust this process, that politics and influence does not override what is supposed to be a truly objective process. I want to make sure that there's independent independent construction management here in the city of Fayetteville to ensure there is no good old boy system continuing in the city of Fayetteville.
All right, because the reference was to Mr. Colvin, we'll have him do his rebuttal first, and then we'll go to you, Mr. Lippers.
Let me say this. The last election, I allowed people to disparage my name and character. I'm suing somebody this go around.
Look at the paper.
Right, well, listen, no, it's not your turn. It's not your turn.
Go ahead, please.
So, if we know everybody that donates any money to us, okay, I have fundraisers, so does he. You have people who pay online, you have people who mail you checks because they support what you are running on and they believe in what your campaign is. Now, any indication otherwise, you're gonna have to deal with that. And that's all I need to say about it. So, Muhammad is one of several hundred people that, whether it's $10 or $5 or $100, that have donated to me. No, it wasn't. And so you will have to give an account for that. But I'm not going to allow that this go around. Period. And so that is my rebuttal. There's nothing to talk about.
Okay, Mr. De La Cruz.
How to settle this? Get the state auditor to come in. That's exactly right. When I took command of a battalion, we get an inspection done of our battalion to see all the things that are good and bad that the last battalion commander left. And then we fix all the stuff that need improvement. And one of the things they do is they check our budget, our finances, our credit cards, how we use those credit cards. And so that just goes without saying. That's something that we need in Fayetteville. One thing I really want to do is just, the city council tells the city manager, we want this, we want this, we want that. They're taking our tax dollars and telling the city manager how they think they should spend our tax dollars. I would love to, I'm going to get another 30 seconds. So my point is, focus on what we have already told the city manager to do.
That's time, sorry. Moving on to the next question.
Thank you for those rebuttals. We will be moving on to another segment of our questions. We're moving on to our lightning round. Here we're looking for one-word answers, yes or no. To start, should we have more development along the Cape Fear riverfront? And we will begin with
Ms. Waddell.
Ms. Waddell.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Absolutely.
Mr. De La Cruz.
Yes.
Ms. Jensen.
Yes.
Mr. Benavente.
As long as no elected prophets, yes.
Mr. Colvin.
Yes.
Okay. Should we allocate city funds to give all residents high-speed internet access? We'll start with Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. De La Cruz.
Repeat the question.
Should we allocate city funds to make sure all residents have high-speed internet access?
Access, yes.
Ms. Jensen.
Yes.
Mr. Benavente.
As long as no elected prophets, yes.
Mr. Colvin.
Yes.
Ms. Waddell.
Can you clarify the question? Are you saying access as in, like, it's available to them, or as in we pay for them to use it?
Just
The infrastructure?
as it's written, should we allocate city funds to give all residents, or make available to all residents high-speed internet access?
Infrastructure, yes.
Okay.
Are traffic enforcement cameras for speeding and red lights a good idea for Fayetteville?
And we'll start with you, Mr. De La Cruz.
No.
Red light and traffic enforcement cameras.
Yes.
The statistics say no.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Should the city commit to using only renewable energy for city buildings by 2035? We'll start with Ms. Jensen.
Yes, but impossible.
Just one word. Just one word.
Technically one word. One sentence, one word to one sentence. Should the city commit to using only renewable energy for city buildings by 2035?
So can I go with my sentence?
You can go with your sentence, that's
Okay.
fine.
If I was queen for a day, yes.
As long as no elected prophets, then yes.
If federal will comes back.
No.
Yes.
Should police body,
Yep.
No.
Okay.
thank you. Should police body cam footage be made publicly available in all violent incidents? We'll start with Ms. Benton. Should police body cam footage be publicly available in all use of violent incidents?
As long as there is no identities of juveniles at risk, then yes.
Yeah, Mr. Colvin.
Yes, under certain conditions.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
The yes have it.
Mr. De La Cruz?
Yes.
Ms. Jensen?
Yes, if lawful.
Okay. Should the city fund more recreational, educational, or employment programs for youth, even if it means reducing spending elsewhere? Mr. Colvin?
Yes.
Ms. Waddell?
Yes, in collaboration with other agencies.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. De La Cruz?
Yes.
Ms. Jensen?
Yes.
Mr. Benavente?
It's 10 times more expensive to incarcerate youth than it is to support them, yes.
Thank you all. Our next question is about economic development. Large outside businesses can bring jobs, but sometimes at the expense of small local minority-owned businesses. How will you strike the right balance in economic growth? And we'll start with Ms. Waddell.
Thank you. So I think that when we're courting industry, we have to court industry that does well by our community. I don't know exactly how we do that without jeopardizing small business owners, but I think most certainly when we hear from our community, we have to take their feedback into consideration. And I think that that's something that's not really happening well currently under this administration. When people come before the city council, often they feel like victims of the process versus participants in it. And I think that even when we talk about economic development, we've got to be structuring these deals in partnership with our community. I know that there are boards and there are different focus groups and all of these types of things, but I'll tell you, it's something about getting out, going, walking, and talking to people in their own environment. And as I was stating in a previous answer, this week alone, I went down 2 corridors, put on my sneakers, and walked up and down both sides of that corridor, and went inside and talked to business owners and employees. And not only was I finding that the vast majority of the people that worked in these businesses and some of the people that own these businesses do not live in our community. They don't live in the city of Fayetteville. That's problematic for us. We've got to really incentivize companies that prioritize hiring from within our city. There's a reason for that, because this is a holistic approach to being able to increase our community's employment and also increasing our tax base. It also gives people the opportunity to be able to purchase housing in our area. So I know that's a very multifaceted answer, but I hope that it does give you what you're looking for from the first portion, and also gives me a chance to give you what I want you to know about what we need to be looking at as we consider economic development. Again, I'm Tisha Waddell, and thank you for listening to us.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
Could you ask the question one more time?
Sure. Our next is about economic development. Large outside businesses can bring jobs, but sometimes at the expense of small, local, minority-owned businesses. How will you strike the right balance in economic growth?
Okay, so I'm gonna come at it from another approach. As you said, as far as that expense, how you stop that is when we actually go to the negotiating table, you sit down and you say, okay, well, if you're gonna come to Fayetteville and we're gonna give you this, here is the percentage of the local businesses that would be involved in these projects. So in a sense, we can actually use economic development, bringing these larger businesses to our city to actually increase the output of our local businesses. So I believe in, like, you gotta switch it, just like with leadership. You know, I'm a servant leader. So we have what's called your triangle. I flipped on the bottom, put the leader at the bottom, everybody else is on top, and we push them up. So we do the same thing with these contracts. You bring these contracts in there with the bigger businesses, and you use that to drive the local businesses up. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. De La Cruz?
With regard to economic developments, you know, for most people, when they think of economic development, they're looking at economic development for their family, for themselves. You know, while the city, you know, is already working on numerous projects, you know, with industry in Fayetteville, I would endorse that. But one of the things I think we really need to focus on is those who are out there trying to make a difference in their life. And we need to focus on our transportation network in Fayetteville. Okay, you know, I spent a lot of time in combat, and I was responsible for moving control teams that move equipment and personnel on the battlefield. And I see how we can leverage those concepts with people who need to get to and from work, to and from the hospital, to and from school, because the fast system doesn't run late at night. So I have an idea where, you know, we get people sign up for a program, and I've talked to the transportation section in Fayetteville about this, again, with this idea, is when they use their phone, they sign up for an application, they kind of plug in the time they're leaving their home, the time that they got to be at work, and everybody's doing this in different neighborhoods, and we have a bus system that just pretty much picks them up and takes them where they got to go, and they come back. Now, they've got to have a vested interest in doing that, but it's a very simple concept. I call it EST, efficient shuttle transport. We got fast, this will be a fastest system. So I think transportation is very important, okay, very important for a lot of people. Also, the housing issue goes back to the housing. That's another thing I think is very important. So 2 things that I want to focus on: public safety, absolutely 100%, but housing is very critical. People got to have a place to live, and they got to have a place, they got to be able to have transportation to get them to and from work, okay? And I'm a product of that. When I left home, I experienced that.
Thank you. Ms. Jensen.
Thank you. So the question is about economic development
Yes,
and
it
big
is.
business coming into Fayetteville. So as a small business owner for over 25 years, I can tell you, big business has already come into Fayetteville. It's called the internet. And it has taken a lot of our businesses. So what we have to do in Fayetteville is we are a service-oriented city. That's what we sell. And as somebody said up here, if you can sell, you can make $1. And in Fayetteville, you can do it. Because if you're a good salesperson, you're going to be making $90,000 a year. But the problem that we have is now we have all these big empty buildings. And when you have an empty building, they die. They look terrible on our streets. So what we need to do as economic development is what I would say. I have a child that lives downtown Columbia. He lives in an office building that they turned into apartments. The building across the street from them was a big box store. They turned it into housing for people 40 and under starting their careers. So when I look at economic development, we do need to bring big business in here. If a big business came into Fayetteville that did what I did, I would go to them and say, I'll tell you what, you buy my stuff and you can hire me and you can have all the headaches and then I can go on vacation, baby. So I think there is a happy medium in everything, but we have to fill our big box stores that are empty. And if you go down Skyboat, even downtown, we see that small businesses are having a hard time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Benavente.
The city of Fayetteville's got a unique challenge on this front because of Fort Bragg. We know that this city is sometimes bifurcated between the transient community, that every 3 to 5 years, it's a brand new batch, and these folks are coming in from all over the country. And they're used to the name brand stuff, the big box stores, the Walmarts, the things that they're familiar with. That's why we have so many of these restaurants that are not, the local ones, they're the franchises, right? And on the other half, there's the citizens of Fayetteville who grew up here, who live here, who are invested here. And they're not considered as valuable. They're not. They're not looking at our dollars. They're not. That's why there's people that come to City Hall and say, why are they developing yet another polluter in my district? Why are y'all celebrating a Bitcoin mine that's driving up energy rates and the cost here in the city? We brag about being able to bring in big businesses, but you don't realize that you have leadership that's not asking basic questions about environmental hazards, pollution, and other situations that have become as big of problems as DuPont and Keyboards putting all these chemicals into our water. We are allowing ourselves to go back and basically make the same mistakes over and over again when we refuse to look a gift horse in the mouth. I've gotten criticism from folks who are saying, you're the only one who voted against the titanium plant. I didn't vote against having it here. I voted against moving so quickly that we didn't ask basic questions that citizens were requesting of us to make sure that all the environmental concerns were addressed. If that meant we had to wait a week until I could articulate that answer to you, then we're going to wait a week. Amazon's great. I love it. Did you know that they have a 300% turnover rate on a given year? That means they go through their entire work staff, they run them ragged, then they hire another full staff, they run them ragged, then they hire another full staff. Those are the kinds of practices that we brag about, but we don't let you know the other side of it. You need a mayor who's willing to ask these tough questions, still willing to bring in big business, but not at the expense of our citizens.
Mr. Colvin?
A lot of talk, no plan. I'll say this, second highest in the country in black-owned businesses, percentages. That came recently, okay? And this is building and strengthening those small businesses while you're recruiting. When someone comes into your community and says they're gonna pay 2 and 3 times the median income, you can't say no first. The state DEQ is going to do its environmentals. The city will do its. We will have our ordinances followed that are in the UDO. But at that moment, they want to know, is this a community that's open for business? I don't know about you, I ordered something from Amazon last week. Lord knows, my wife orders it regularly, and many of us do too, right? People have to work there. There are local businesses that contract to drop those packages off to our homes. That is the economic understanding that you have to have. And you have to be able to do more than point to the problem. You point to all of the symptoms, but you have no plan for the solution. We continue to bring housing into this community. Look, let me give you a stat that's been thrown around. 40,000 people come into our community every day to go to work, and 31,000 commute out. We're the largest city in 9 counties. People come here to do work, but they wouldn't come here if you didn't have jobs and opportunity. 20,000 of the people live and work here. We're 20,000 houses short. I can guarantee you the 40,000 that are commuting in would rather work closer, work closer than where they live. So we have a housing shortage. We have communities like Godwin and Falcon that need infrastructure so that houses can be built. Guess where they're going to shop? They're going to shop in Fayetteville. They're going to eat in Fayetteville. That's why Raleigh is so prosperous. It's not because everybody lives within the town or city limits of Raleigh. As Wendell grew, so did Fuquay-Varina, so did Cary, and Raleigh benefited from it.
All right, that's time. Mr. Benavente, you have a rebuttal?
Mitch Colvin doesn't have any plans. As much as he dislikes our city manager, anything that he's ever talked about or bragged about is because city staff fed him what to say. You never hear new ideas. So when I'm talking about responsible businesses, I can tell you about a very serious situation in one of my neighborhoods with our local Walmart that showed up, went out of business, and still maintains the largest share of that entire area without actually serving anyone. This is off of Murchison Road. They're using it as storage. So what do we do? This is what we do, sir. Make sure you're paying attention. It's called a co-op grocery store. This is where the citizens are owners of their own grocery store in the communities. There are ways to get off of the teat of these big box stores only and get back to citizens and communities being in charge of their own destiny. And I put in legislation to have a co-op grocery store process created and funded here in our city. So we have plans. The legislation is there. Look it up.
Mario.
Look it up.
All right. Yeah, rebuttal. Ms. Waddell?
So, as I was walking, talking to these people, having direct conversations with them, I asked the question, why don't you live in the city of Fayetteville? They gave 2 responses overwhelmingly, our crime rate and our high taxes. So it's not because they can't find a place that's closer to where they live. It's because they don't like our crime rate and they don't like our high taxes. Now, I'm not disagreeing that in a community where you are an urban community and you've got suburbs, there are people who wish to live in the suburbs. But the reality is, even though sometimes we're being told that 5,000 jobs have been brought into our community, there are people who live in this community who cannot find one of them. And that is a problem. So I'm not gonna make up numbers and sit up here and tell you some statistical data. I'm telling you my lived experience, and I know that for many of you, that this connects as your lived experience, because we are the ones who have people in our family who are looking for this work that can't find it.
Yeah, Ms. Waddell, thank you. That's time. And so, thank you all for your answers. Thank you to the audience who contributed questions. We worked them in as best we can. The ones we couldn't, we'll be using in the one for the general election for the candidates who advance to that. We are now going to close out with 1 minute closing statements, starting with Mr. Johnson.
I'm up. Y'all want to do some jumping jacks? I got it. No. So, like I said, my name is Clifton Johnson, and I appreciate y'all coming today and giving me an opportunity to speak with y'all and let y'all know the passion that I have for moving Fayetteville forward. Most people, you go to my website and you see the strategic plan that I put together to push the city into the future. I tell people that, and you hear me always say, build a better Fayetteville. They say, what does that mean? And I say, hey, it takes a village to raise a family, but also it's gonna take a village to move this city forward. I don't normally get into all of the arguing, but what I always do is I always ask people, regardless of how you feel of Mitch Colvin, he's our mayor. That's the power with Fayetteville. See how they're talking to him? He's our mayor. So respect the position. Respect the position. And that's what I'm doing. I'm going to come in there. When I was in the military, I never really talk about it, but 21 years, and I was called the maker of teams. So we're sitting up here, we're seeing our current mayor being disrespectful.
Mr. Johnson. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. John Cruz.
Thank you for this opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking for your vote. The choice is simple, Freddie or the status quo. I am a proven leader, okay? I'm battle tested. I've led soldiers on the battlefield, soldiers and civilians. I've led my family of 6 to 15 grandchildren. I'm a local business owner. I've run 4 businesses under one roof. And I managed to keep my business in operation even during COVID. And all I'm trying to do is serve the people that need help the most. And I'm asking that you vote for Freddie, because I will make a difference. I'm a problem solver. I've been doing it my entire career. Anytime there was a difficult task to do, they would call either Lieutenant Dela Cruz or Lieutenant Colonel Dela Cruz to solve the problems. I've been doing it almost my whole life. And so I'm asking that you strongly consider me, and if you do decide to vote for Freddie, bring your family, your friends, and everybody else.
Thank you, Mr. Dela
Ms.
Cruz.
Simpson?
Thank you. And first of all, I've never been called status quo. I always get something else called a little bit extra sometimes. So, with that being said, so my name again, Kathy Keith Jensen. I have served on the City Council for 12 years. The past 4 years, I have been working very diligently to build relationships, not just here in Fayetteville, but at a state level and a federal level. I'm a small business owner. I'm a mom of 6. I am a military brat. I have been a military wife. I traveled the world with my husband. I know what it's like to be a military spouse. I know what it's like to be a military spouse when your husband is gone and you have kids and you have to get from point A to point B, and they call you up and say, is your husband, was he in this country or that country? And you look up and you go, I don't know, but don't shut off the credit card because he's somewhere. So, and a lot of people understand that. I was born and bred here. I will tell you, the past.
Thank you, Ms. Jensen. Mr. Benavente.
I feel like these forums used to end with the people asking questions saying, can you say something nice about your opponents before you leave?
You can do that.
And that's exactly what I intend to do. It's not hard for me though. There's a lot of times where I've had to ask Mayor Mitch Colvin and Mayor Pro Tem Kathy Jensen for private meetings, one-on-one, to try and ask them to hear me out on certain issues that I know that they care about deeply and that they know that I care about deeply. And they've given me that time of day because they're serious about their jobs, they're serious about who they serve, and so I know that after the past 12 years, they've both done some really great things that not I or anyone on this panel or anyone in the city can take away from them. What I'm asking for is an opportunity to bring new energy, to bring fresh legs and fresh perspective to this job. Because while we appreciate the past 12 years, a lot has changed since that time period. Now in 2025, I know that the citizens of Fayetteville are expecting someone who will stand up, speak truth to power, especially when you see the things that are happening in Washington, D.C.
Thank you.
And there's a
That's
lot
time.
more that the city of
That's
Fayetteville can
time.
do to fight against all of these things.
Mr. Benavente.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
Mr. Colvin?
Mayor Colvin.
Mayor Colvin?
Thank you. Thank you for hosting this event. Look, we are at a critical moment in our community. And the people who are making decisions for us matter. It matters that they know day one what they're doing, the relationships that have been built. And there's experience that will come into play when times get tough. And we've got to stick it out. We won't all get it right, but we've made progress in this community, real tangible. More people are homeowners, more small businesses have resources. We're working better with our collaborative partners, and we've got a plan. You know, small-minded thinkers talk about people. Larger visionaries talk about plans. You need a plan that's going to lead us to these next uncertain times that we have on the federal and state level. And I believe I bring that with the experience that we have. Tangible results, stable improvement, and we need to continue to keep our city moving forward. We won't always agree, but I think all of us agree that we love this community and this city, and we want what's best for it. Thank you, Member Mitch Cole.
Ms. Waddell.
To Mr. Johnson's, to speak to his point, I don't think that it's disrespectful to state the facts and the truth and the reality about our experience working under the position or the person in the position in the seat of mayor. And I think that it is very important for you to understand that a lot of what you've heard up here today has been echoed by multiple people from multiple positions about the same person in the same seat. I think you need to do your due diligence and you need to decide whether that matters to you or not. We can all do this job. Everybody sitting up here can do this job. There's a fully capable staff to support us in doing this job. The thing you need to be deciding is who has character that represents and reflects what you want to see in City Hall. Only you can answer that question. And I hope when you think about it, you will think about Tisha S. Waddell as your choice of candidate. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Waddell. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Please join me in thanking these candidates for participating.